Yes, it's always a pleasure to be with you on Insights. Welcome to the show. My name is Lawrence Omoiti. The justice sector in Nigeria continues to be a part of one of the arms of government in the country. Just like every other sector in Nigeria, the justice sector is not without its challenges. The judiciary, which is the main arm of government that administers this sector, continues each day to grapple with these issues and challenges. On Insight today, we intend to x-ray the judiciary and the justice sector and their challenges over the years. And who else to discuss this if not a man who should know? My guest on Insight today is Professor Abdulkareem Abubakar Kana, Senior Advocate of Nigeria. Good morning, Prof.
Good morning, Mr. Lawrence. Thank you for having me.
Yes, Professor Kana is the National Legal Advisor of the All Progressives Congress. He's also a professor of law from Nasarawa State University, Kefi. In fact, a former dean of the Faculty of Law. He's also a former Nasarawa State Attorney General and Commissioner for Justice. Once again, Professor Kana, we welcome you to Insight.
Thank you.
All right, you can join our program. You can join our live stream on YouTube, type in Insight, and you can listen to us also online on www.citizenfm.ng. You can follow us on our social media platforms, 3 of them in fact, on Facebook at Citizen FM Abuja, on Instagram at Citizen FM 937, and also on X at Citizen FM 937 is off this earth. Once again, welcome to Insights. My name is Lawrence Omoiti. All right, Prof, let's start with your inaugural lecture. As I said, I stumbled on that lecture recently on the media, and I must say that I was really gripped by how you dealt with some of the issues. This was the 52nd inaugural lecture series of the Nasarawa State University with the title, Why Laws Fail, analyzing the shortcomings of Nigerian law and the implications for justice. And one of the key things that you blamed systematic corruption for partly contributing to the failure or ineffective implementation of the Nigerian law. Let's start from that.
Yep. Well, I did, and among so many other factors, some are cultural, some are historic, and some are economic. And corruption is one of them. And like I emphasized during my lectures, that no matter how good a law is, if it's not being properly implemented, it will not succeed, it will fail. And how we know when a law fails, or when a law is failing, is from the objectives, the reason why the law was passed in the first place. If a law will solve a problem, or ill persists, then the law has failed. And I tried to identify quite a number of factors which, in the course of my research over time, I have discovered that they contribute to inability of institutions to carry out their functions. Corruption is one of them. I also identified absence of necessary infrastructure for the implementation of laws. When you pass a law which requires manpower, people that are trained, qualified to implement it, and you don't bring them, you don't employ them, then certainly that law cannot be implemented and it will eventually fail. So these are some of the issues among so many.
Okay, is this why you also called for institutional strengthening, which you said is vital to overcoming political patronage?
Absolutely, because when you want to, for example, I would identify a problem, which I think is one of the major challenges we face today as a nation, problem of kidnapping, abduction of people, citizens, by bandits and criminals. When you have an anti-kidnapping law and so many other criminal legislations that penalize the act or the offense, you must have enough boots on the ground to implement it. You must have well-trained security agents who will be charged with responsibility of ensuring that that law is fully implemented. That as a proactive approach, even before the criminals become comfortable enough to be able to carry out their dastardly acts, they are apprehended by intelligence gathering. Then if intelligence gathering fails and it gets to a point where the act is being committed, the response time should be as short as possible. The security agencies should be able to apprehend the crime as it is being committed. And if they are not able to apprehend it as it is being committed, meaning that there's a failure of intelligence, there's a failure of reaction at the time of action, and the act is being committed, then they should be apprehended after committing the act. Now, all these three are clearly what we have challenges with, and the question is why and how did we find ourselves in this kind of situation? And my field work reveals that we need additional boots on the ground, adequate manpower. And that's why I give examples of big cities I have visited around the world where, in spite of their economic advancement, because when the economy is good, it automatically eliminates certain acts of criminality. And many criminals are criminals out of compulsion. Some are out of impulsion. Those who commit crime out of compulsion are usually more in number. And if the economy is good, you eliminate them because they are comfortable, so they will not perpetrate acts of criminality. Then you'll be left with those who are just criminals in the criminality in their blood. Those ones, you just have to apprehend them and deal with them as they should be. Now, in countries that are more advanced, with good economies, you still have a scenario in which they make sure they have adequate boots on the ground, enough police, enough civil defense, enough military, enough even fire service to respond to calls and emergencies, and enough of all this so that when the criminal is able to get away with being able to commit the crime, he should be apprehended while committing it. If he's able to get away with commission of the crime, he should be apprehended after committing it. But certainly, when the chances of escape are high, the possibility of crimes increasing is also high. So there's a need to make sure that there is adequate number of security agents, security institutions on ground, well trained too, well educated, not the ones that will be mass employed without the necessary knowledge of even the law they are implementing. So it's a all-rounded approach that's required.
Okay, before we leave your inaugural lecture, you also called for promoting transparency within the Nigerian legal system, which you said it was imperative for restoring public trust. Let's talk about this.
Well, I have taught law for 24 years as a professor, and I was Attorney General of the state 2 times, served 2 governors, and I'm a member of I'm a life bencher, member of the body of benchers, and I also I was the president of Nigerian Institution of Law Teachers, and I have practiced law to a point where the Legal Practitioners Privileges Committee decided I should be elevated to the rank of a senior advocate of Nigeria. So you can imagine that from all perspectives, I have engaged. And I will tell you that judiciary in Nigeria is doing well, but then they are stretched to their limits. Limits in all respects. Limits in terms of capacity, with the number of cases exceeding the physical capacity of the judges. The economy, because the judiciary does not exist in a vacuum. When economy hits citizens, it hits judges too. So when citizens are desperate, judges are desperate. So if 1, 2, 3 judges could resist, the 5th and 6th may not resist. So the need to improve their welfare is very necessary. And then also, I spoke about the need to minimize political interference in the process of appointment of judges, so that we end up with good ones. And so that there should be improved confidence in the system. So these are some of the issues I highlighted in the course of my inaugural lecture.
Okay, this brings me to the issue of the challenges, which you have, some of them you've enumerated, and I'm also aware of some of these challenges after covering the judiciary for several years. But my question has always been, how did things get this bad? Because I remember, from history in the 60s, Nigeria was exporting judicial officers to Gambia, Botswana, and the rest of it to be judicial officers. How do we not allow, as a country, allow ourselves to allow these current challenges to get this huge?
Nigeria still exports judicial officers to every country in the world. Nigeria still exports lawyers to countries around the world. Nigeria still exports soldiers and policemen to international peacekeeping operations. There's no aspect, and Nigeria still exports businessmen and artisans, doctors and professionals to other countries. The environment dictates how you act. And you will realize that when you follow the food trail of Nigerians who move to diaspora to work, they bring out their best, and their action there, their acts there, completely different from the acts there at home. And that's where you should ask the questions why and how. And that's why I said the judiciary does not exist in a vacuum. In an environment where corruption flourishes and people, as a society, in fact as a norm, refuse to condemn what should be condemned, and we normalize what is not normal in terms of conferring some level of respectability to individuals whom we know the source of whatever they have. Judges cannot be exempted. They are humans too. So when you have 1 or 2 isolated incidences among judges, you should know that there's an explanation for it. It is the society.
All right, if you're just joining us, it's Insights, and we are looking at the justice sector and talking also about the judiciary. My guest is Professor Abdulkareem Abubakar Kana, Senior Advocate of Nigeria. Professor Kana is also the National Legal Advisor of the All Progressives Congress. Prof, let's move on to staying with the judiciary. You are a member of the INABA, and I know that over the years, some senior lawyers have been accused of aiding corruption in the system by, some would say, encouraging their clients to bribe judges. How does this not make some of you very uncomfortable?
Well, in the course of my paper, and if you get a copy of the inaugural lecture, you realize that the media, the press, journalists, and the lawyers were partly blamed for some of the challenges we face in the country, either for refusing to report properly what should be reported, sentiments, partiality, and so on. And then also the lawyers too. Like I said, judiciary does not exist in a vacuum. Media too, journalism does not exist in a vacuum. And for every act of corruption which our society is blamed for, a part of it, lawyers are partly to blame. And will not run from that reality that our colleagues, sometimes engage on unethical practices. Some have been indicted by our professional bodies. Some are being indicted as we speak. And some are known very well for what they do, and it's just a matter of time that the law will catch up with them. But what I must not deny, is the fact that indeed some of our colleagues engage in some of these unethical conduct in terms of attempting to compromise judges and not telling their clients the truth and taking on everything as they should instead of abiding by our basic codes and ethics of the profession.
Okay, maybe some would say maybe one of the ways of resolving some of the things is for experienced lawyers, including perhaps yourself, taking up judicial appointments, as in judicial officers, appointment as judicial. I know that a lot of very successful private lawyers don't like that. Maybe because of the return, the maybe money, financial aspect of it. But for you, are you willing to take up appointments as a judicial officers? Because you are eminently qualified.
Well, I must be frank with you. There are certain occupations I will see in life that are by calling. I will use that word. Just like priesthood is by calling. Imamship of the mosque is by calling. And then I think the bench is one occupation that clearly has to be by calling. If you push yourself into it, then you must be ready to abide by the basic codes. That's why I have never excused corruption on the bench, because you have an option. You don't have to be a judge. Instead of allowing yourself being subjected to the rigors, because the truth is that the rigors are intense. Your patience level has to be at the highest. Your composure, and so many requirements of the bench. You just have to be above board in all respects. You have to be slightly above human, for you to be a judge. And that's the way I see it. Some of us are not running away from that responsibility, but we strongly believe also that our calling is slightly different from that. It's always better for one to remain on his path than ending up where one knows that he might not quite be able to give out his best. We're giving our best as professors. Well, we expect those who have chosen the path of being judges to also give their best.
All right, Prof. I just have to ask this. Recently, the Nigerian Bar Association, which you are a senior member, have been engaged in big part of what you call it with the Rivers State government over 300 million naira gift, or what do you call it, organizing fees or whatever at the end of the day. Some lawyers, especially senior lawyers, have intervened, and that this is becoming embarrassing to the association. What would be your take on it after listening to both sides, the NBA and the Rivers State government?
Well, my position ordinarily should be simple, because I'm the National Legal Advisor of the All Progressives Congress. It is the party of the president. It's a party in government, and the government has taken a position regarding the deteriorating political situation and condition in Rivers by imposing a state of emergency there before things get completely out of hand. And there was an explanation for it. The Honorable Attorney General of the Federation had spoken, and he explained in details why the government had to act in that respect, and then also explained that it was within the law for the action of the government in view of the circumstances there. I need not say more than what the Honorable Attorney General has stated. But then the issues of the money that had been paid by the government of Rivers to the NBA, I have not seen the details of the communications between Rivers State government and NBA to understand the basis for the releases of those funds, and whether the money in the first place was appropriated in the Appropriation Act of Rivers for it to have been released in the first place. So there are so many issues that I have not quite been able to investigate, and those documents have not been forwarded to me to study, to understand. And I think on such very sensitive matters, it's better when one has to comment, one must make an informed decision to see what is necessary to see. So I'm just being very careful because I have not had the privilege of coming across the relevant documents. But as for the state of emergency which has been imposed, I think the Honorable Attorney General of the Federation has explained, and I agree with him 100% on some of his explanations on the need to act at the appropriate time before things deteriorate. Democracy as a system is delicate. And if we agree to adopt it, then everyone has a duty to ensure that the institutions of democracy are preserved. and enhanced to perform their functions to the fullest. And the moment any one of it is frustrated and inhibited from performing its functions, then democracy collapses. And I think that was also the findings of the Supreme Court regarding the actions of Governor Fubara when he decided to virtually or technically shut down the House of Assembly. This is a country in which some of our colleagues, I want to be governor one day if God wills, but then we also must realize that being a governor is not an alpha and omega thing where we feel we can do and undo. I think the action of the government and the National Assembly in imposing state of emergency based on these actions is a wake-up call to all those who have a role to play in the preservation of our democracy, both the governors and the president, that the constitutional protection for their office is not absolute, and it is conditional, and conditional upon they doing what they need to do, they doing what they have to do to enhance the institutions of democracy to perform their functions. When you actively move against an entire parliament, then you know that you lose your own legitimacy too. And that's the situation we are in now. We have had governors who ruled for 3 years without House of Assembly. They appropriate by themselves, they sign by themselves, they implement by themselves. That's not democracy. And it's important that those who should know that the constitutional protection is not absolute. And that's how much we transgress, that we lose legitimacy, and relevant and necessary action must be taken in the interest of the country.
All right, it's still Insights on Citizen 93.7 FM Abuja. We'll take a short break now. When we come back, we will talk some politics. Thank you so much for staying tuned. It's still Insight on Citizen 93.7 FM Abuja. We are talking judiciary, we're talking the justice system. And my guest is Professor Abdulkareem Abubakar Kana, Senior Advocate of Nigeria. Professor Kana is also the National Legal Advisor of the All Progressives Congress. You can be part of this show. You can call us on 0903 2229797. That's 0903 2229797. You can also call us on 0818 222205. 0818 222205. And also don't forget that you can be part of our live stream on Citizen FM 93.7. Just type in Insight and you will be part of this show. You can also listen to us online on www.citizenfm.ng, and not forgetting our social media platforms on Facebook at Citizen FM Abuja, on Instagram at Citizen FM 937, and on X at Citizen FM 937. Okay, Prof, let's talk some politics. 2027 general election is about 2 years from now. But the real politicking, whether we like it or not, has started. And it looks like the coalition against the APC is moving very fast. What is happening?
You mean coalition?
Yes, against the return of the APC government in 2027 election.
Well,
opposition members are amassing.
What we see is a picnic.
Really?
By the roadside, by certain political individuals. But it's not something that disturbs us in the National Working Committee of the party. As far as I understand what's going on within our ranks and file, I can assure you about that. While they are trying to make some moves, we are also making quantum moves to ensure that the country delivers, the party delivers on its mandate of providing to Nigerians what is needed. And I think that's what we need to campaign with, ability to keep the country one, which is one of the fundamental responsibilities of an administration. And then, of course, to ensure that the economy remains liquid. There's money to provide to Nigerians what is needed. For those who are said to be amassing, we haven't started feeling the impact. We haven't started seeing the dust yet. And I don't think we have noticed them yet. But if you say that there's a collision going on, truly speaking, we're not aware of it. Not that I have seen it. My political vision may be short-sighted because some of us may not be as rugged in politics as some of our other colleagues in the National Working Committee. Some of us are technocrats and professionals who are there to provide a conscience to the system. But then, for as far as I can see, I don't think there's a reason for us to be concerned yet.
Okay, I know that you are a member of the National Working Committee of the ruling party, and sometimes your responsibility may be restricted to party affairs of the president. And as a ruling sessions, do you sometimes be very frank with the leaders in terms?
But you see, when a party wins an elections, the elected officials and those open, and people coming. The same people who were part of the process during the electioneering, who may not have easy access to the government offices, still have easy access to the party secretariats, and therefore we get to know firsthand, we get to hear from them directly, from everyone, what exactly is going on. And I can assure you that we have sessions in which some of these feelings are conveyed to the relevant authorities. And where you do not see action immediately, I can assure you that it's not that action has not been taken. Some of these actions take a little while to manifest. Some, the impacts are felt immediately. But I can assure you that we hold sessions. And when, for every complaint Nigerians make, I think we slightly have more time than those of them in government also to read papers, to listen to Citizens FM, and every other thing that is happening across the country. And I can assure you that we convey these messages to the relevant authorities, and many times actions are taken.
Well, there are some who believe that the ruling government, in terms of political communication, the output is poor. Most times they are reactionary to issues raised by opposition and everything. I know that may not be your forte, but in private discussions, or if you have opportunity of talking to some of these people who are in charge of this company, what would you advise?
I can assure you that whether you convey it to them or not, they hear, they know. They read papers too, and they listen to stations. And nowadays with social media, before you wake up in the morning, you already know 50% what's going on out there, or even virtually everything. Virtually everybody is glued to his phone most of the time, and whether you try to avoid the news element of on the social media or not, it will pop out. So it's not that there's someone somewhere who doesn't know what's going on. Everyone knows what's going on. But as to the tactics, strategies towards addressing them, and that's where the issues are. And like I said, the issues, some of them are so deep that resolving them require a lot of very careful planning and approach. And I can assure you that for many of the issues that we complain about, from insecurity to economy, necessary actions have been taken, and then we're going to see manifestations.
Okay, I also know that elections in Anambra State coming up in November. I know that your party recently set up some committees to resolve issues arising from the primaries in Anambra State. But there are other states. How widespread are some of these committees? Or what are the efforts in terms of trying to reach out to some of our aggrieved members across the country?
The APC held a NEC meeting recently, and one of the outcome of the NEC is that reconciliation process must begin. Now, in every political party that holds elections, especially primary elections, in order to produce a flag bearer, there will be those who will lose. And those who lose will usually have their own followers. So the reconciliation process is permanent in every political party and must be sustained. Unless the political party is able to build a mechanism of reconciliation deep into its system, that party will fail. And I can assure you that the All Progressive Congress has the reconciliation mechanism deep in its system. It's part of its constitution, and from time to time it's being carried out. But because political decisions are rapid and political actions evolve on the